The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network. You're listening to Around the Galaxy.
This is Pete Fletzer. On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we're joined by Noah Outlaw and Corey Van Dyke of Kessel Run Transmissions. Join us as we talk about rumor culture, Clone Wars Saved, and bringing Ahsoka to life. So strap yourselves in, relax, and enjoy this journey around the galaxy.
D&D player, board game player.
We're having a roast.
Why we're doing
Nice one. Good.
I'm in New Orleans, where kind of right now, beautiful, the hardest part of lockdown. Hey, you know it's.
So Noah, Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Corey, how are you doing?
Pretty good. We're now a week into some pretty cool Star Wars news, so it feels good to actually get news after these months and months and months of just drought.
Yeah, 100%.
It's been it's an interesting time to be a Star Wars fan. I mean, it's like it seems like news hits when you least expect it, and when all the rumor mongers say it's going to hit, it doesn't. So you're right. It's a really cool time. So I know both you, Noah, you're one of the rare people to be on the show twice. But so maybe Noah, introduce yourself, and then Corey, talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Noah Outlaw from Kessel Run Transmissions. I host Kessel Run Radio, which is a show we do every Wednesday with my buddy Corey here. And thanks for having me on twice. You know, it's an honor, man. It's an honor.
I'm honored that you said yes twice. That's amazing. Corey.
Yeah, same thing as Noah. We run Kessel Run Transmissions together, and we merged our channels, I think it was last September. Yeah. And it's been a blast so far, just talking about Star Wars rumors and all of that, and just trying to spread some positive light during everything going on right now. So that's kind of our goal in releasing everything that we have.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting because you use the word rumor, you use the word, I don't necessarily look at what you guys do as rumors. I mean, if it doesn't come from Lucasfilm, of course, it's rumor based, but you guys have taken off over the last couple months, just really kind of becoming that new source of information, which is really great. Tell me, how you guys sort of established yourself as this sort of new source of info in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, Noah and I had always heard certain things from sources of ours through the years, and it was one of those things where we realized that it was constantly right. Everything we would be told would come true, and we're like, wow, why don't we run something? And so the first thing we did was the Rebels sequel series. And the minute we heard that, and we got confirmation from a few sources, we're like, all right, let's run it. Let's see what happens. And that was, I think, one of the most nerve-wracking things we've ever done on the channel, just because we knew that Reddit would pick it up, and then everybody would be like, And then a couple of months later, we heard about the Bad Batch during the Clone Wars finale. Yeah. And so we didn't post it till about a month later, just because we wanted to check with various other sources and make sure we were right. And then when enough people told us yes, we were like, interesting, a Bad Batch series. So, because I felt like if we released that, it sounds like the typical thing that somebody would make up, like a Bad Batch series is on the way. It didn't.
Right. Seems almost too easy, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then, and then we got it confirmed, and we ran like a Clone Wars figure scoop in the beginning of January, which I think has been the most brutal out of all of them, because that's the one where nobody believed until I think this week. So
2 days ago, I think, right? What was it? 2 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, and another thing, like Corey said this earlier, but like, the world, it's just been there's just been a drought in Star Wars news in general. So we kind of were like, we had this stuff. We were like, let's let it out, get it out there, let people get excited about something. And then also, just the world itself has just been a pretty negative place since the beginning of this year. So that was another thing. It's like, let's, for the small majority of diehard Star Wars fans that would get excited about a Clone Wars Bad Batch spinoff, or a Rebel sequel, or these Clone Wars Season 7 Black Series figures. Let's put that out there so people can have something to look forward to in this times where it doesn't seem like there's much to look forward to. So,
Yeah, and it's interesting because there is it seems like, and I talked about this on I think it was my streaming Star Wars show, how it almost feels like Disney and Lucasfilm are relying on third parties that have sort of become more and more reliable, right? You have there's certainly, in fact, I was just tweeting about it yesterday. There's certainly there's a lot of garbage out there. I'll do my best not to mention them by name, where they just are clearly making stuff up. Whereas it feels like Lucasfilm is almost comfortable in a way with finding a source or two that's positive. And Noah, you said you're doing your best to keep things positive, and that's really important. Do you think maybe, I don't know if you can talk at all about how you feel the news about these things is getting out? Because, and you guys, what I love about you guys is, well, first of all, you keep things positive, but second of all, if you say it, it's pretty solid most of the time.
Yeah, and I think that's something we're very conscious of. Like, we don't ever want to put something out unless we're 100% on it, because I feel like that's, even if we're like 95%, we still don't want to do it because it's not 100. And and like you said, there's so many people who make up news deliberately and just to throw people off or just to get clicks. And that's something that we absolutely do not want to do. So if we hear something and it sounds solid, we'll post about it. And, that's, I think, one of the issues with the rumor culture, if you will, is there's too many sites that people link to over the ones who are actually giving the right information. And really what that is if somebody says, hey, there's an Old Republic show coming, and we say, hey, there's the Bad Batch, the majority of people are going to lean towards the Old Republic because that's what people want to see right now.
Right.
So, unfortunately, as cool as that would be, that's just not happening right now.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. People that tell us that we do it, we're people that were telling us we were making stuff up for views. I'm like, you really think we'd make up a Bad Batch series to get views? Like, no. If we really wanted to get views, we talk about the Old Republic.
Right.
We talk about we'd make up everything in the book about a Kenobi series. Like, there's just so much more. There's so much more stuff that we would say that isn't Bad Batch or a Rebel sequel. But and it's also I've had a lot of people talking to us, especially the past couple of weeks, about how YouTube, the YouTube space for Star Wars YouTube channels is awful. Like, it's so toxic. There's very, very few YouTube channels out there that are positive, and there's probably, maybe, I don't want to say a specific number, but there's a very, very, very few YouTube channels that report on Star Wars news that are actually legit. There you got the Mike Zeros of the world, I mean, that are out there just dropping 10 videos a day, and that gives YouTube a bad look. And I think that might be part of the reason why we got so much flack whenever we started dropping these things, because it's coming from a YouTube channel. No people in this community and in the Star Wars fandom don't want to immediately, when they hear a YouTube channel is reporting something, their guard goes up immediately, because they think about the Mike Zeros of the world, or all the stupid, was it Doomcock or whatever his name was? They immediately think about those people, and so I think that's part of the reason why it was so hard for people to really trust us at first.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, because that's one of the things that we're kind of dealing with the Beyond the Blast Doors network. We drop between 4 and 6 shows a week, just from different podcasters, myself and a bunch of different guys. But you're right. I think there's sort of your first thought when you hear something is reported on YouTube is it's some guy who's creating clickbait, and just the very fact, and I'd love your response to I guess it was about a week or two ago when this Doomcock person dropped their resetting of the sequels, and it got picked up by Newsweek magazine. How do you guys, I mean, as people who are like, I mean, again, I'll say it again, I love and respect what you guys are doing, because you're not going to, you guys could have run with things when they're early, and I think people would put up with, if you guys were 70% right, you're still more right than most. But how does that affect you guys when you see that? What's your reaction? What's your response?
Well, it's upsetting, because the thing is what blows my mind is that stupid.
How do you feel about the story? How do you feel about it?
that incredibly obnoxious, idiotic rumor that got in it, but like you said, it got picked up by all these major sources.
Yahoo picked it up too.
There was legit journalism websites quoting a guy named Doomcock. Do you understand how crazy that is?
That's what cracks me up. Like somebody had to, some editor at Newsweek had to be like, "Are you sure this is the guy?"
Right? And what happens though is then we dropped this bad batch rumor, right? And we dropped it back in June. It obviously gets confirmed this past week, and obviously articles like the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, even major YouTube channels are talking about it, but they credit Doomcock, but they don't credit us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't say Kessel Run Transmissions reported this back in June. That doesn't happen. And it's infuriating to me. And I want to give a shout out to Slash Film, because Slash Film is pretty much the only major outlet that actually gave us credit in an article recently. And so that made me happy, and seeing that, because smaller YouTube channels, once again, people don't give them respect for dropping stuff like this. So I love to see that. And it's infuriating to see that stupid rumor being picked up everywhere.
I think one thing that I told Noah last week too was, unfortunately, hate sells, and that's exactly what all these YouTube channels profit off of. And if you create a rumor that's very divisive between, fans,
sure,
that is going to pick up steam. But the fact that, major journalists actually picked it up is, I think, the most confusing part to me, just because it sounds like somebody who just didn't like the sequel trilogy and just wants to pretend like it can all go away. And the fact of the matter is, Disney's not going to invest billions of dollars into something and be like, okay, but guess what? It's not real anymore. Like it's bizarre to me that story gained as much traction as it did, and it's still being talked about.
No, and it's but the thing is, it's still being perpetuated by the Mike Zeros and the Doomcocks and the others. Are still continuing to keep that alive. It's it's strange, because it's also as you said, Corey, it's all based on the most divisive parts of the fandom. And I think in a way, sometimes we as a fan base are our own worst enemy, because things happen and I'm totally guilty of it. Anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that I get so disgusted with what I'm seeing that I talk about it. And then I realize after I hit send, I've just perpetuated the conversation even further. And there's almost no way to slow those guys down, though.
No, there's not. There's not to last time I was on the show, I was harping on the fandom menace, and and I will do that again, because the thing is, one thing we were talking to a buddy, I'm not gonna say his name, there was a time where he was not a huge fan. This is a buddy of me and Corey's. He wasn't a huge fan of the new Star Wars trilogy, and he saw what the Phantom Menace is doing, and he thought it wasn't great, but he also thought they were kind of onto something. And so he reached out to what's his name, D-Day Cobra, the guy who runs Geeks and Gamers. He reached out to him, and he was talking to him about maybe rebranding the Fandom Menace and saying something to more positive, and maybe try to get the fan base brought together more. And what our friend that me and Corey were talking to said that Jeremy from D-Day from Geeks and Gamers told him is that no, I don't want the fandom to get back together. I don't want us to be I don't want us to be friendly with each other. They love it. And it makes them, and it gets them a lot of views. So, that's what they're doing. And I guess it makes sense that they don't want to, have a positive fandom, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but it's really true. Is that's what gets the clicks, right? It's the whole thing. Even in real world politics, if the Democrats and Republicans loved each other, there'd be no news, right? And so it's the same kind of thing. The problem is they continue to just look for the ugliest parts and try to blow it up, and that's really where it's disappointing. But I mean, there's videos of some of those guys literally saying, I love the algorithm. It makes me, how much money I make from the hatred among the fan base. And it's frustrating at best.
Terrible.
So so you guys, you've been, I guess, I don't know if it's lucky or not, Corey, to say that a lot of the scoops you guys have come from the shows that you guys love the most. Corey, you might be the biggest Clone Wars fan I've seen on Twitter. I became a huge fan, but it's so great to see that. Is that one of the things that drives you, or is it just, maybe let's take half a step back and maybe Corey, tell me a little bit about your entree into Star Wars fandom, because you really are into the animation parts.
Yeah, no, it was very much Clone Wars driven. That's why it's like years ago. I think it's like 8 years ago at this point. I started a podcast called The Wolf Pack, which is, from the Clone Wars, and that's what obviously through the years it evolved into Kessel Run. But I joined the community specifically because of the Clone Wars, and so I think especially when the show was revived, it made me want to just continue to do what we do even more.
Yeah.
And now that there's like a Clone Wars sequel coming out, it's just, I'm glad that Disney is looking at all parts of the fandom and saying, okay, well, here's what this group wants, here's what this group wants. And, you got the Rebels fans, you got the Clone Wars fans, the film. I mean, I love all of it, but for the most part, but, I think that's cool that they're recognizing the love that everyone has for different things now. Because thinking about a Clone Wars sequel a couple years ago never would have even been a thought of mine, let alone the series coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, being in the fandom and in the community was definitely Clone Wars driven.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because we thought Clone Wars was done. It sort of had its own sort of truncated, unplanned, untimely death, and then not only is it revived, now we're coming back and we're getting even more of it. And so, what are your guys' thoughts, both of you, on the integration of some of the Clone Wars and some of the animated characters into things like Mandalorian? Feel free to talk about anything you might know is coming up, but also like how do you feel about how that connection is going to be made, and some of the challenges from a story standpoint?
I mean, personally, like, because I know Corey will geek out about Ahsoka for like an hour and a half, so let me get in here. But the fact that we're gonna, one thing that I've had a issue with Disney, I'm a huge fan of everything Disney's done with Star Wars. I think they've done a great job. But one thing I've been frustrated with them about is how the connectivity just hasn't been there. And there's just no connective tissue between mediums and properties. There's, they have like the novels, which all my books are over here, so I'm pointing over there, but the novels to the TV shows, to the movies, to the comics, to the audio books, the audio dramas that they've been doing. There's just doesn't seem to be a connection between them that was promised back when Disney acquired Lucasfilm.
Right.
And so the thing is I'm thinking, and from what we've heard, is that they're finally starting to do that. And obviously, whenever you hear that Bo-Katan is going to be in The Mandalorian, that you hear Ahsoka Tano is going to be in The Mandalorian, Captain Rex in The Mandalorian. We've reported this. Sabine Wren will be in The Mandalorian as well. Like, the fact that they're doing this, and even if you want to go to, the Kenobi series, with even the possibility of having Clone Wars flashbacks in the Kenobi series, which we've talked about, and it's been out there for a while. Our buddy Jordan Mason was talking about that earlier this year. Just the fact that all this stuff is finally seeming to come together a little bit, even if it is just TV show to movie, or animated series to TV series. Sorry, right. Mandalorian feels like a movie to me. That's why I say that. But, it's cool, and I hope that we start to see that more and more from different mediums, like novels to comics to TV series to movies.
Yeah, I think if somebody had said to me a couple of years ago before the Clone Wars announcement that in the same year we would get the final season of the Clone Wars and then Ahsoka and live action, it's like. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense. Like, I would be like, there's no way. They're not going to do that. There's no way. And so it's exciting because it's a way to integrate the animation into live action. That's something I love that they've done with like Rogue One when they brought in Saw Gerrera. And I think he's been the only one who's made the transition into live action.
I believe so.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so Ahsoka is a massive one because that is from what we've heard and a lot of other people have heard, it's going to propel her into her own show. And then we're going to get a live action Ahsoka series, which is a complete dream come true. And then, we heard the Captain Rex is going to be in Mandalorian as well. And it's like, I can't wait for those episodes to drop just so we can be like, yes, it's actually happening. Because it sounds like a dream. Like all these characters, it just sounds like this dream series, this dream season with Tamora Morrison coming back. And I can't wait.
Has there been an official cast list for Mandalorian season 2?
No,
I haven't seen one. No,
it kind of seems, that I wonder if they're going to drop that soon because, and if we see, because that's the thing, it's been radio silence from Lucasfilm.
Next month.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we're definitely getting a trailer next month.
Yeah. I was going to say, you guys, you have sort of confirmed we're looking at a trailer in August, right? Yeah.
And so possibly we see Ahsoka Tano, or I think would not be wise of them to not show Ahsoka Tano. I think they definitely think. I definitely think they should show her if it's just for a second, or if it's just a little tease. Maybe you don't even see her all the way. Maybe it's just like in a shadow, or we see her lightsaber ignite, something like that. I think they need to do that, but who knows what we're going to see in that trailer, man? Because there's a lot of stuff going on. Because not even that. And another thing, which actually I didn't mention this a minute ago, but one thing I was so excited, is that Timothy Oliphant most likely playing Cobb Vanth. Because I think Slash Film reported that, and I don't think they didn't say Cobb Vanth by name, but they alluded to that story in the Aftermath books. So I'm like, oh man, I'm excited to see that on screen too, because that's a even bigger jump from animation. That's a jump from a novel to a live action series. That's huge. Yeah. So there's a lot going on in Mandalorian season 2 that I can't wait to see.
I think we talked about this. I know we talked about this when you were on back last year, Noah. We talked about one of the things that Disney didn't do really well with Rise of Skywalker was market it. They didn't. They held everything back, and then of course, I think the problem to me, my own personal issues with the film and what we saw was when they did give us the commercials, they gave away all the important parts of the movie, right? Nobody believed Chewie was dead because we saw him in the Falcon, and so all the ships showing up in that Marvel Avengers moment was already given, but they did such a great job with, and I think Steele Saunders was talking about it the other day on Twitter about how maybe Disney and Lucasfilm really isn't so worried about merchandising because they held all the Baby Yoda stuff back. But with season 2, all the information is starting to come out, and again, from your sources and corroborated by others. How are they going to sort of bring us back, do you think, to that sort of surprise level that we had with Mandalorian? It felt like, the first episode was amazing, and then it ended with the darksaber. So all of us, certainly the three of us, were like, what was that? What do you think they're going to have those kind of moments in season 2?
Yeah, I think they will.
I think there'll be some. I think they will be. I don't think, look, them holding back that Baby Yoda appearance, like keeping that out of the media or the news up until before that series came out was huge. I can't believe they were able to do that. So but the thing is there's a lot of stuff going on, and even though Ahsoka, and a lot of people have had issues with like Ahsoka and all these characters showing up, is that like they're going to take away from the Mandalorian himself. They're going to take away. But the thing is from what we've talked about this before, this is nothing new, but Ahsoka, we know Ahsoka's in one episode. Ahsoka is in a single episode. And so is Sabine. And I'm not really sure what Bo-Katan, but I'm thinking she might even just be a flashback. Like that's just me speculating, but maybe we'll see how Moff Gideon maybe got the darksaber on Mandalore and she'll be there or something like that. But there's still going to be a lot happening. Like there's still going to be Moff Gideon and trying to get Yoda. There's still going to be Din Djarin taking Yoda to his home planet and getting him back to his I'm thinking we're gonna find out a lot about the species that Yoda is in this next season, and I'm thinking we're gonna see a bunch of them walking around on a planet, which is gonna be like the greatest thing I've ever seen on screen. So there's a lot going on, and I don't think I understand people's concern that maybe it's kind of spoiled. There's not gonna be enough stuff in the season to be excited about, but there's gonna be a lot.
Right.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see. And again, keeping that in mind, what you're saying, even about seeing multiple of Yoda's species, but to see, are you guys at all concerned about bringing these animated characters to life in a way that will be satisfactory to the audience? I mean, especially Corey, I'll call on you for that. I mean, I'm a huge Ahsoka fan myself. I'm the first to say, and I've said it on my show before, when I saw the Clone Wars movie, the whole Snip Sky Guy thing, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now Ahsoka is maybe, it's funny when as a Star Wars fan for 40 plus years, it's interesting to me that characters like Ahsoka, Orson Krennic, and sort of these characters that didn't exist, in the original trilogy have become some of my favorites. Are you at all concerned about, if it's Rosario Dawson or whoever it might end up being? Do you have worries about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Rosario Dawson. So it's one of those things where my only concern really comes to the fact that Ashley had no idea this was something that was happening. So, and the reason I say that is I feel like Ashley is so connected to the character of Ahsoka that the idea that Rosario and Ashley didn't actually sit down to talk about her confuses me a bit, because I feel like that would have been, but I also feel like Dave knows the character more than anyone. So I can also see that conversation between Dave and Rosario working, but I feel like you'd want to loop Ashley into it. Now, that being said, I don't think that'll affect the performance at all. And Rosario is a great actress, so I can't wait to see what she brings to the table. But of course, I always have that, like, what if it sucks, in the back of my mind. But I have faith that Dave is going to be able to translate her well. I think she's a tricky character to actually translate to on screen, to be honest. And that's why I never thought we would get Ahsoka in live action, is there's a lot of prosthetics going on there, right? A lot of makeup and a lot. So I'm interested to see how she's going to look and how they're going to, like, what her mannerisms are going to be like. And her voice is key.
Yeah.
Because it's so, I mean, Ashley's really defined the character through her voice. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited. Like I said, I have high hopes that it will be spot on, but also, of course, there's always that reservation.
Well, let me, Corey, something that you said too is like, you've talked to Ashley, and the thing is like, she might have talked to Rosario about it, but the thing is she's still an employee of Lucasfilm. So when that Slash Film, I think it was, who reported it? Was it Hollywood Reporter?
I think it was Hollywood Reporter. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When Hollywood Reporter reported the Rosario Dawson thing, and it wasn't officially confirmed by Lucasfilm, there's no way Ashley could tell anybody that, oh yeah, I had a conversation with Rosario. Yeah, like she's gonna, if she did, I think she probably did. She just can't say anything yet because it hasn't been officially confirmed by Lucasfilm. So I think I just think she's just playing coy. I think she has talked to Rosario.
Well, I feel like, see, the only thing that makes me think that she hasn't is the post that Ashley put up about it was a very emotionally driven post of feeling like, you could tell, I mean, just based on what I read, you could tell there was a little bit of a blindsidedness to it. She didn't see it coming. She had no idea this was something that was going to happen. Yeah. And I think she just wouldn't have commented on it if she had talked to Rosario.
The thing that gives me most confidence about Rosario is she had been throwing her own name in the hat for a couple of years. So at least she's a fan, right? At least we know that she loves that character. And, unless somebody said, hey, you kind of look like you could pull that off. And she was like, hey, it's a gig. But I don't really think she would push as hard as she did. Yeah, I think it will be very challenging to bring her to life with anybody but Ashley. I mean, she's really that character. And so And I do agree with you, though, Corey, is that with Dave being involved, one of my favorite things, I said this on my show a couple of weeks ago, one of my favorite things about the gallery show was you had these big Hollywood directors and people who've been doing this for years at this table, the Jon Favreau's and Bryce Dallas Howard, and you have Dave, he's still the nerd at the table. He's still he's like one of us. Like if we were sitting there, and, Dave, Jon Favreau mentions something from one of the films, and Dave sort of actually's him, and it's kind of right. I think that's a kind of a cool and a very hopeful sign. Do you guys have any insight as to how much was Dave involved or not involved in Rise of Skywalker? Because I felt there were so many missed opportunities in that movie from a story group standpoint.
I mean, I know that Dave has been involved in the sequel trilogy more than people think. Especially, I forget what book confirmed it, that he had a lot of influence on like some story beats with Kylo. But
which makes sense because he's the best character in those movies. So.
Right. Yeah, for sure. In terms of Rise of Skywalker, we haven't really heard anything on that front. It really sounded like JJ was the one who wanted to integrate animated characters into it purely because, from what we've heard, is he actually like loves the animated stuff, which I take with a grain of salt. But it's cool that he was willing to bring them in. I would imagine that Dave had something to do with that.
Yeah. Because like I know Kaz was out there from Resistance and I like I'm not saying JJ hasn't watched any of the animated stuff. Yeah, but I picturing him in my mind. I really can't imagine billionaire J.J. Abrams sitting on his couch turning on Star Wars Resistance at 10 p.m. on Disney XD. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really imagine that happening. So I think Filoni was probably like, well, Cass could be in here as right now. His ship could be over there, and they could put the Razor Crest over there. And so I think he probably had input there. But I think I love The Rise of Skywalker, and and people know that. But the thing is, there is a ton of missed opportunities when it comes to fan moments that I don't think Dave would let happen if he was heavily involved. Yep. I don't think he was involved as a ton, but maybe just here and there, maybe for that putting Kaz and their ship in there and the Razor Crest and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, I'm with you 100%. There's as a storyteller and a writer, I could do a whole piece on what I loved and didn't love about Rise of Skywalker. At the end of the day, it was a fun Star Wars movie. And yeah, I can think of 15 missed opportunities without working too hard at it. And it's funny. And I think it's interesting as fans of the entire set of Star Wars canon, like the three of us are, I talked about it last week with Scotty J-Row. We talked about how, instead of Allegiant General Pride, it could have been Grand Admiral Thrawn, and nobody needed to know other than us. And my friends who I go to see the movie with would have been like, hey, that blue guy was pretty cool. And they didn't need to give his backstory, but just enough to kind of throw him in there as sort of a connection for those of us. But I think that this brings me to my next question for you guys is, as we go into The Mandalorian, for example, or any of the new content that's coming out, as it gets deeper and deeper and more connected, how do you feel they're going to be able to tell these stories without making it feel like, well, if I didn't watch 7 seasons of Clone Wars, I can still understand what the Darksaber is all about? Do you think they're going to have a challenge trying to do that, or are they just going to like you have to be on all the content?
I think they're going to be able to. I think to what Noah was saying earlier, I think that's where that flashback will probably come into play with Bo. I think that's where they'll still explain it a bit, or you can have even a quick dialogue where a Mandalorian talks to Din Djarin and just says real quick, "Oh, the Darksaber. Here's the history of it, real quick." And
right.
And then in terms of Ahsoka, that's what I'm most interested to see how they're going to address, because for all we know, they might kind of introduce her as this new character to like Din Djarin. He just might not know her relevance or anything, and that might be a way to entice people to go back and watch the Clone Wars. because it is a huge deal that she was Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. I mean, that's the chosen one's apprentice right there. So I feel like that's definitely going to be interesting to see how they challenge themselves in doing that.
Yeah. And, and they might not. Here's the thing, when it kind of even going back to what you just said about like the Grand Admiral Thrawn thing being, put him in the place of General Pride, and people who know, and people who don't.
Right.
The Darksaber thing is, I think they'll kind of maybe describe that this was an ancient Mandalorian or whatever, like a major part of Mandalorian's history, but the whole Tar Vizsla thing might not come into play. The people who know about that will be like, oh yeah, we know that. But the people who don't are going to be like, oh, that's cool. They made a black lightsaber on Mandalorian. Right. It was a big part of their history. And so I don't think they'll go too deep, but it'll be like, if you know, and if you don't, here's a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things about Filoni. Just simple things like the I always say it wrong, Camino and insignia on. Just things like that that people can pick up on, or people like my dad, who's in his 70s, who likes Star Wars, will watch the show and be like, that was a fun show, and not have to get to. And I think that's the line that they're walking right now. Is there's two extremes, right? There's the geez, if you don't know what happened in season 3 of Rebels, you're not gonna be able to follow this series. Or there's the other extreme, which is Rise of Skywalker, which they called it a Wayfinder instead of a holocron, and it would have been those sort of things that could have just been a simple connection for those that are sort of students of Star Wars to have gotten something out of it. But so what are you guys looking most forward to as far as content over the next couple years, and what do you have your eye on?
Corey?
Well, oh man, it's tough because I think there's 3 major things that I just cannot wait to see. I think right now, number 1 is definitely The Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
I think that, just on top of all the cameos we're going to be getting, I can't wait to see Moff Gideon. He's easily one of my most anticipated characters to see on screen again. Giancarlo Esposito, it's like, that's such a blessing that we have him in Star Wars.
Boy, I'll tell you, watching those episodes again and just soaking him in the second time, just the way he speaks, the way he delivers those lines. It's not... It's different for Star Wars, but it feels right. It's so cool.
Incredible. So like that's probably my number 1, but number 2 is after hearing the probably the Bad Batch, just because we know more about the Bad Batch right now. But also Kenobi, right? Because the fact that Hayden Christensen is on board, I mean, that's another dream come true. Like, seeing those guys together again is something I never thought we'd ever see, and Disney is clearly saying, okay, again, here we go. We're going to give the fans what they're asking for. And I think that, those 3 projects, I just think are going to blow people's minds.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those things where you realize that if you wait long enough, the band gets back together again, right?
Exactly right.
We'll never play again together, and then wait a second. So, well, I mean, who would have thought we'd see Harrison Ford as Han Solo?
Right.
So it's pretty wild. What about you, Noah? Is there anything
Yeah, if I had to do my top 3, I'd say probably right now. Probably number 1 is Mandalorian season 2. I just, I think that's going to be kind of the common answer right now. It's the biggest thing that we're looking forward to. That's we actually know about and is close to coming out. So I think that's definitely number 1. Number 2 is going to be Kenobi for sure. I just, after hearing the stuff with Hayden being in it and the stuff that we could possibly see in the series is, oh man, it's got me so excited. And just seeing Ewan back is just amazing.
So what's the latest on timing for that? Do you know? Do you have any insight on that?
From something, and this is just out there somewhere. This isn't anything like new. But the thing is, I don't remember where it was though. But I believe they're supposed to start shooting in January. Of 2021, and apparently, according to Bespin Bulletin, I believe that's where that came from as well. January, they're shooting at Pinewood, he said, and then Cassian is actually going to start shooting this fall sometime. So like maybe October is, I think, maybe late August. They're starting pre-production up late this month. So within the next week or so, they're going to start it up again. So they'll start shooting hopefully by September or October.
Wow. I wouldn't think. I see. I think that because of COVID and the way things are going, I find it hard to believe that we're going to get any live action stuff next year. I think that they might start up production on Cassian, but I don't see them doing 8-9 weeks consecutively without something happening.
Right.
Well, I think that's one of the advantages of the volume, though. It kind of reduces the number of people needed on set. It creates sort of I don't disagree with you. I mean, I had on my show a couple weeks ago a guy named Teddy Newton who's an animator and designer, and he said that this is the potential for a renaissance for animation because all that work is being done remotely. So
but my third, Kenobi's my second, and then third is probably it's either Kevin Feige's movie or Lesley Hedlund's Disney Plus series. I wish we had more information on those. Lesley, I think I'm starting to believe that Lesley, her series will be the Ahsoka Tano live action series, and I'm excited for that. So I think I'm going to put Leslie's series third on my list for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they did say it's going to be a female-centric show, right? And we all know that Ahsoka. Do you think that'll be an Ahsoka Sabine series? Will it be related to Rebels, do you think? Or where do you think it's going to fall?
I don't know. I mean, I think I could see that. I could definitely see Sabine being in it, especially if they're going out of their way to cast someone in live action, which we don't know who it is, but Sasha Banks is in Mandalorian season 2, and I could see that being a thing. But I could see it being I could see that happening. And who knows? That's the thing. Another thing I'm interested in is seeing, first off, what Sasha Banks is doing and how well she is, how well she acts in the show. Because making the jump from WWE to acting in anything other than WWE is a big jump that very few have made. The Rock is probably obviously the one and The Rock, I love The Rock, but acting is not really the biggest part of why he's a star. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Sasha Banks could play a different character for sure. It's weird because I just don't picture a Sabine. You know what I'm saying? It's just
I don't know. They'd have to really. I don't know. But the thing is, I trust Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. So, if they see something in her that goes, oh, this is Sabine, especially Dave. Dave, obviously, the character of Sabine is very near and dear to Dave's heart. So he's probably, if she is playing Sabine and Dave was okay with it and she showed him something that he's like, okay, let's do it, then I fully trust Dave and I'm excited to see what she does. But maybe she'll show up in that too. But we'll see. I don't know. I hope that series is Ahsoka Tano live action, and I have no idea where it's going to take place, but I'm always down. Also, I just love Rosario Dawson. I'm a huge fan of her, so I'm excited to see what she does with the character.
That's great. So you guys working on? You don't unless you want to drop a scoop here, but are you guys working on anything? You got anything in the pike that you can at least hint towards?
Yeah, we got something. Corey, do you want to take it?
Which one?
That's a nice place to be.
Well, you last two podcasts we've kind of teased a little bit, so we'll just do that too. But there's something that Solo Star Wars story fans. There's something in the future that I think they'll be pretty excited about, and I'm definitely excited about. I love that movie, and I think what they're doing is something pretty cool, and I'm excited to see. it, and we're not reporting it 100% because there's still stuff that that's why we haven't come out with it. There's still stuff that could halt what's going on with that show. But whenever we are 100% on it, we will be reporting that.
I would also say that I know a lot of people are wondering if there's going to be anything past the sequel trilogy. And Disney definitely did not invest in those characters to not do anything with them. So there's definitely talks going on for certain characters to come back in their own thing. Ones that I think people really would not expect to be the main focus of whatever medium they're going to be in.
Right.
That's great.
There's a group of people that will be excited for sure.
That's
That's great. So make sure if you're listening or watching to follow Kessel Run Transmissions to catch those as soon as they hit. You guys have time for my 10 question segment?
Of course.
Awesome. And you know what? I didn't go back to listen to what you said the first time around. I'm going to have to compare and contrast and see if you've given me the same answers.
But you know what, man? It's been a long time. I'll probably have a bunch of new answers. Yeah.
All right. So there are 10 simple questions. We'll start with this one. What is your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book? No, why don't you hit first?
Favorite Star Wars movie is going to be Return of the Jedi. I just think that is the definition of Star Wars in a movie. Just the adventure, the group aspect of it, all of it, just the Ewoks beating the stormtroopers is just can't be enough to be, that's Star Wars right there. So I think that's just full. And also that fight at the end is just between Luke and Vader is just amazing.
Awesome. Corey, what do you got?
Well, in terms of TV, Clone Wars, obviously, Clone Wars is number one.
That's cool. So, what's your least favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book? I hate asking that question lately. It just feels a little divisive. But
Corey, what is your least favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
Well, I mean, TV show wise, it's going to be Resistance, and then movie wise, I'm sorry, Noah, it is The Rise of Skywalker. But
this guy. Why don't you go with the Ahsoka novel? That's like an easy question that wouldn't make me mad.
Yeah, it's not a good book. It's not.
Where she's farming with the farties or whatever it's called. What are they?
It's not good.
Yeah.
Is that actually what they're called?
Yeah, the Fartleys or something.
That's not good.
It's not. It really isn't.
Yeah, I wanted that book to be excellent, and now I'll never get E.K. Johnson on my show. But I did not love it. I wanted to. I really did. But
Same. I didn't actually finish it. I was halfway through. Yeah. And as a big Ahsoka fan, I'm like, I can't finish this.
I just can't.
I just called a friend to tell me everything about it.
How does it end? Noah, what's your least favorite movie, TV show, or book?
Least favorite. Probably, oh man, I don't know. Probably Star Wars Resistance is probably going to be my least favorite series of like. I don't even dislike it. I mean, I don't like it, but I don't even. It's not like I hate it. It's not like I hate it. I'm just not the demographic for what they're going for. But my least favorite Star Wars movie, to make it easy, is probably Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Interesting. It's funny. That used to be easily like I could just drop Phantom Menace like without thinking, and then I did my fan fiction novelization of it, and I really dug into the story. And it's funny. I was just saying recently that if it's on, I'll stop and watch. The one that I can't get into is Attack of the Clones, and I've tried, but it's just it's not uncommon though. So, would you guys consider yourself a rebel or an Imperial?
I would. Probably a rebel. I'm not like very much into like order, like organized. Everyone has to be the floors have to be squeaky clean and shiny. Like I'm more into that, dusty rebels attire.
Yeah, cool. I would say the same. For sure.
Yeah. It's hard to say Imperial without feeling a little bit like
you can't be like, I'm definitely an Imperial, and I support.
We do like dictatorship,
right? I like dictatorships and killing billions of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Billions.
All
right, so let's start with Corey. What's your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
Oh, the power upping of lightsabers for sure. That's just the ignite when they ignite, especially. Sorry, not to be biased, but I really love the ignition sound that they did for Ahsoka in this season of the Clone Wars. There was something about like you could hear the weight. That makes no sense, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting because they've really. I think that's one thing that casual observers don't always pick up on is that
what are you talking about?
Well, like
you can hear the weight. No, but I will say in Corey's defense, each lightsaber seems to have its own personality and sound. Right. I mean, it's blatantly obvious in Kylo. Now I am going to have to now go watch Ahsoka's and see if Corey's just either, totally off.
I know. He's just, it sounds exactly the same, Pete. I promise. I I promise. Don't even waste your time. It sounds like every other one.
No, it's different. It's different.
What about you, Noah? What's your favorite?
This is definitely one I said last time, and because this is my answer every time, and I don't know why I can never think of what it's called. I don't think I could last time either. But the thing that Jango Fett drops from in Attack of the Clones when Obi-Wan is chasing him. Corey, help me out.
Is it you know what it's called? Drops in what?
You know what it's like? And it's like, and like it's a quiet first. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The asteroid field.
Yeah, the bomb that he drops.
What's it called though?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, dude, I couldn't remember this last time.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Sonic Boom, whatever that is. People know exactly what we're talking about.
Everybody knows.
If you don't, like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, everyone knows.
45 minutes into a Star Wars podcast,
right?
You maybe you should get some medication because you're a little.
Yeah, right.
That's great. Cool. Yeah, and I can't reach a visual dictionary. It's a little out of reach to
mine are too over here.
All right. Who's your favorite droid? R2, 3PO, or BB-8?
R2.
Yeah.
I'm going with BB-8. I think BB-8's thing is I like R2, I like 3PO, but BB-8 I think has the most personality of any droid. Like R2 has personality. C-3PO has a personality, but like it's just not one anybody wants or likes. The thing is, like R2 has a personality sort of, but BB-8 definitely has the most personality out of any of those, and I think that's the one that I've actually just been drawn to the most out of any droid in Star Wars.
Yeah, I always think back to just and it's equal parts JJ, equal parts special effects team, and but when Unkar Plutt offers her 60 portions, and the way he looks up at her with. And there's like a little bit of a purr sound. There's a little Puss in Boots, but it works. And honestly, he's an even more simple design than R2D2. And I agree that there's a little bit more character to him than the others. All right. Next question is, which spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe would you most like to own? I'll throw that at you, Noah. We'll start with you.
Oh man, I'd probably. I mean, you gotta like think maybe a Star Destroyer, right? Because like it's huge. Like you can do anything you want. Like that's all you need. If you like, you know what I mean? Like that's like a little city that you own. Or you can just go if you want something more simple. I would also be fine with having the Falcon. You got plenty of room in there. You could. I think Daisy Ridley talked about this once, but she was like, "I'd put a spa in there. I'd put this in there," and I'm like, "She's right on the money with that. Like, you put a bunch of cool stuff. Put a little movie theater room in there.
Sure,
I'll go with the Falcon just to make it easier."
All right, Corey, what about you?
I'd go with the Ghost. I think that would be a cool ship to just. I mean, I think it's as big. A little. Well, is it? I think
it's probably a little smaller than the Falcon, but the thing is, it's still big. Still big.
It feels like it's got a bigger cargo area.
Yeah.
This is the nerdiest podcast. It's good though.
So I mean, not to brag or anything. Like I'm not trying to brag. Corey. We have to. But my ship is bigger than yours. It's just how it is. But go ahead, take the Ghost.
But I feel like I could outrun you in the Ghost.
It's the fastest hunking junk in the galaxy. I don't know if you've seen all 9 movies, but it's pretty fast. So
now we need a show that shows them like on the Kessel Run.
I bet we could figure that out anyway.
Well, but is the Falcon really the fastest hunk of junk? Because technically it was rounded up in Solo. So, I mean, it's kind of cheating at that point.
I still think it's pretty fast.
Well, it certainly has the best navigation system, right?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%. L3.
Yeah. All right. So you got to pick one of these, a Porg, an Ewok, or Jar Jar Binks. What's your favorite one, Corey?
Oh, I really like the Porgs. I like the Porgs, but to be honest with you, I'd have to go Ewok. There's something about the Ewoks that are cool. So Ewok.
All right, that's cool.
All right, Pete, I have a question for you.
Wait a second. Wow.
Well, here's the thing. I have a question. So you've done how many episodes of the show you've done?
This will be 74.
74. So a lot of episodes.
Yep.
How many people have picked Jar Jar, do you think?
I would say 6 or 7. Like,
okay, and do you know any of them off the top of their head? Off the top of your head, do you remember any of them?
Yeah, I know Scotty J-Ro. I know. I think Christopher Sean picked Jar Jar Binks. Yeah.
Okay, well, those gentlemen will be blocked on my Twitter by the end of today. If you pick Jar Jar, what do you do? He's 7'9". What are you talking? He's so tall. He makes a mess. He's loud. He's obnoxious. And I mean, if you go with an Ewok, that's still a little too big. It's like having a little baby bear walking around your house. If you don't pick Porg, look, now Porgs maybe cause a mess. They might tear stuff up, but if you can train it well, it's like this big. It's small. It's like they're easy to take care of. So you have to go with a Porg. You have to go with a Porg.
All right.
Sorry, Scotty and Christopher Sean. I bet both of you are fine gentlemen, but you're done.
You're blocked. Yeah, you guys. You should. I'll send you guys a link after this. There's a little clip of when Dan Donahue, who's the voice of Shriv from the video game, he was on my show and he picked Porg, but he went off on a whole really funny explanation as to why. And I won't spoil it for you, but it's worth the 3-minute listen. It's pretty good.
Awesome.
I feel like with an Ewok though, you always have like a bodyguard at that point because they're insane. So it's true.
Right.
Well, but also, Corey, how long until you run out of food one day? You run out of Ewok food. How long till he's making a fire and putting you on a stick in the living room?
You're not wrong. You know what
I'm saying? Like you got to think about these things, Corey. Right. You have to think about these things. You're always going to be 3 steps ahead of those little beasts.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. That's great. All right. If you could be any character in Star Wars, who would it be and why? We'll start with Corey. Noah looks like he's thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, realistically, I've never thought about this question.
It's interesting because people lately have been saying things like, "All right, do you have to take all the bad stuff they went through?" Or
right.
So I it's all up to interpretation.
I wouldn't be a Jedi. I'd tell you that much. It wouldn't happen.
No fun happening there.
Oh man, Noah.
Man, I what came to my mind, and I have a feeling I said this last time, but I think I got to go with like I don't want to be the species, but if I could have his lifestyle, I'll have to go with Dexter Jetster. I think. You know what I mean? He's vibing. He's got his droid girlfriend or whatever she is. Like always asking me what Java Juice or whatever it's called. You run and you own a diner. You're friends with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's coming in. He's like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" And you're like, "Hey, let's sit down." And I bet you he doesn't. I bet you it's a nice, popular little diner on Coruscant, and I bet he makes a nice living for himself. So I think he seems carefree. And he also, he's funny. He's like, he's always cracking jokes. He's got, how big your pocketbook is, stuff like that. I think he's got it all figured out. So I'd have to go with Dexter.
I feel like I'd be that one character that you see in like every couple of scenes in the background that you just like, why does this person keep showing up? And that's, and that's purely just because like, I feel like we'd actually be Kessel Run Transmissions in that Star Wars universe.
Right.
Anyway.
We would just be reporting on real life news, though.
Right.
Yeah. We'd be like, the Clone Wars is over, but also the Bad Batch is wrecking havoc now. Right. Like they're really causing a lot of issues, and stay updated on Kessel Run Transmissions for all your Bad Batch updates.
See, like, I have no patience to be a Jedi. Yeah. A bounty hunter, that sounds extreme.
This is dangerous.
I mean, I'd be down for that, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know what? I'll take the bounty hunter life, to be honest with you. it's yes. There you go.
All right.
You gonna be a bounty hunter?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. Or you could be one of those bounty hunters in the background that nobody's really
exactly. No one knows. Yeah. Exactly.
Corey would be the bounty hunters that's just at the pod race, just shooting people as they go by. That would be Corey.
He'd be the Aura Singh.
He'd be Aura Singh.
That's right.
Wow, that's funny. All right. What's your favorite trilogy? The originals, the prequels, or the sequels?
This was easy for me. We got to go sequels. I don't think there's because I've asked myself this question a lot, and how I figured it out as I looked at my Star Wars rankings, and I looked at which trilogy has the 3 movies that are highest on my list, right? So Force Awakens is 2, Rise of Skywalker is 4, and Last Jedi is 5, I think, 5 or 6.
Mhm.
But still, but I got Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace down there at the bottom of the list. A New Hope is at 8. So there's A New Hope is a man. I've got a lot of heat for this, but that movie, my friend, is a snooze fest in the year 2020. So 1977, I understand why people were like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I don't know if they had that at that point in time, but
we did.
Thing
We
is,
had 1977.
not to make you feel ancient, make you feel terrible. No, but thing is,
and Cars. We had Cars too, which was pretty.
Yeah, y'all had Cars as well. Wow, y'all were doing good for yourselves. But thing is I just feel like, but now I remember because how I judged that is I watched it with friends who had never seen it, and they had watched they liked the sequels, and they really like a few of my friends, obviously a bunch of my friends had already seen it, but a few of my friends hadn't. So I put on A New Hope, and they were like, "Wow, this is boring." And I'm watching it with them through their eyes, and I'm like, C-3PO and R2-D2 have been walking through the desert for 40 minutes. It's like, well, what are we doing here? So I love every Star Wars movie. There's not a Star Wars movie I don't like, but it's 8 on my list, which a lot of people are surprised about.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what about you, Corey?
Oh, I think to what Noah said, that's kind of one of a really unique experience I had as I showed someone Star Wars for the first time, and she had never seen it. And, seeing it through her eyes was a completely new experience for me because it's like I'd never seen anybody experience Star Wars for the first time. And it was interesting to see that how well received the prequels were for her because that's something that I hadn't. I mean, well, first off, the prequels are my favorite, but I thought that was interesting that like Phantom Menace really grabbed her, whereas A New Hope not as much. And like, but the sequels seem to be the one that grabs newcomers the most. Because that's kind of what it's designed to be. And to be like, I love Force Awakens to death. And when I saw Force Awakens for the first time, and even when I saw Last Jedi, I was like, I think the sequels would be my favorite. But yeah, it's got to be the prequels just because of all those connections to the Clone Wars and to that story. And it's one, even like Rogue One's kind of connected to it in a way, even though it's not. But in terms of a trilogy, but yeah, prequels.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting because one of the great things that Disney has done, and I've said this probably on every single one of my episodes, is that what they've done is they've opened doors for people to find Star Wars in different places, right? And my son, Corey, you would appreciate this. I think my son became a Star Wars fan through Clone Wars.
Oh, nice.
And this is really, I love this perspective. He did not know, I guess he'd seen all the movies. He's 7, right? So he's seen all the movies, but casually, right? You can't get a 7-year-old to sit through 2.5 hours of anything. So he didn't realize that the clones turned. So we watched, and it's funny, I was just recently watching as I was getting ready to get you guys on the show, I was watching your response to that last arc, and my son, when they turned, my son was shocked because he loves those guys like Rex and Cody and those are his guys. Those are his Star Wars characters. And when they turned, it shocked him. And I was like, because I take it for granted because I know this is where it's going to happen.
Right.
I'll be shocked to see how it happens, but he didn't know it was coming. And so and that's what's so amazing about Star Wars is my daughter didn't know that Palpatine and Sidious were the same guy. So cool. So she picked in Revenge of the Sith. She was like, I knew there was something wrong with that guy, right? So, but it's kind, and I of course lived through the I am your father moment in the theater. So it's really amazing that Star Wars can do that. And so to your point you guys are making, I mean, the sequels are even, we live in a Marvel blockbuster world now, and sequels definitely, especially Rise of Skywalker, has that pacing that just like nonstop, quick, and if that if you're looking for a blockbuster summer action or winter action movie, that's the way they work. So really kind of interesting.
That's a cool perspective.
That's awesome. Yeah,
it was very fun. All right, the last question, guys, is what is your favorite Star Wars quote?
Corey, you have to go first. Oh, man, it's hard.
I think Hera says it. She says, I'm trying to think about the direct quotes. Like if all you do is like fight for your life, then your life is worth nothing. I thought that was a really powerful quote. That comes from Rebels of all things. So that I think that's always stuck with me. I think that's one of my favorite quotes.
Cool. Noah, what's yours?
Man, I think I got to go with this might be my favorite scene in all of Star Wars, but when Luke throws down his lightsaber and he says, I'm a Jedi like my father before me, when he's resisting Palpatine, literally every single time, goosebumps. It's like, it's so good how he just, that entire scene is amazing, but just especially watching the prequels and seeing Anakin's story and how Luke could have easily done the same thing. And he was like, no, I'm not. And also I know my father there's still that good in him. And it's just an amazing moment. It's
funny. So many people who are in the not my Luke Skywalker mindset for the sequels and Last Jedi don't realize that that's what that last scene in Last Jedi was all about, was the same exact thing. It's just a different way to do it. And so I totally agree. That's one of the most powerful things about Star Wars. It tells the story. It's all about, for a movie with the word wars in its title, it's all about pacifism, right? That's really cool. So guys, thank you so much for spending the last hour hanging out and talking about so many really cool things. Remind the folks where they can find you so they can keep up with you and keep this conversation going.
Corey?
Yeah, you can follow me at Corey_Wolfpack on Twitter, as well as at KR Transmissions on Twitter. And then on YouTube is where you can find all our content at Kessel Run Transmissions. We're going to be running a contest all of next week for all the support we've gotten over the years, and especially this year. It's been really, really cool to see everyone just supporting us, and it's nice to see. So we really appreciate it. We're going to have some Black Series figures that aren't out yet that will be given away from the new Rebels line, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
And it's just a way to show our appreciation for everyone, and that's what we got going on now.
Cool. And you can follow me on Twitter at Outlaw Noah and on Instagram at The Outlaw Noah, and like he said, Kessel Run Transmissions on YouTube. Keep an eye out for that contest. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and just keep an eye out there. We do Kessel Run Radio every Wednesday, which is our Star Wars show, we got a lot of fun stuff going on over there. So make sure you go check us out.
Awesome! Thank you very much, guys. This was a lot of fun. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
For over 40 years, Star Wars has been a part of our culture, a part of our lives, and a part of who we are. Now there's one place with something for every type of Star Wars fan. The Beyond the Blast Doors Network. From the latest in Star Wars news.
A great day, an exciting day here on the YouTube channel.
To collectibles.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah,
beautiful.
How much you want for it?
Interviews with creators.
If you want your book to feel necessary, it has to deliver some insight or some piece of information that you didn't get anywhere else.
Famous fans.
Yeah, and it's like all there's a yeah, that's great.
Fan documentaries.
This moment, like the Force awakened in Rey, but it also awakened something in me.
And great conversation with casual and hardcore fans alike.
I've seen a lot of things end up on the cutting room floor that I'm like, oh.
The Beyond the Blast Doors Network was made for you. New content nearly every day of the week on video and podcast. There's something for every fan. Visit BeyondTheBlastDoors.com and on YouTube search Beyond the Blast Doors.